The Bloody Bard, written and read by Robert Canner. Chapter 1. Los Angeles, California. The last of the children at Our Lady of Victory Orphanage was finally asleep. Sister Lucy could finally sit down and enjoy her one indulgence. Some years ago, she had offered spiritual guidance to a very troubled young man. Sister Lucy's advice had obviously had a profound effect, because since then, the man had made sure that she always had a steady supply of her favorite chocolate. Chocolate was Sister Lucy's one vice, and after years of being on the front lines of what was probably the Catholic Church's final stand against extinction, it was something she desperately needed. After saying a prayer of gratitude, she unwrapped the little truffle and placed it between her lips. Lemon-lime flavored. Delicious. The chocolate wasn't the only thing that Sister Lucy was grateful for. Decades ago, before she ever entertained the thought of wearing the habit of a nun, she had been told that she could never have children. Now I have so many to look after. Sister Lucy loved her charges. Each one of them was a gift from God. She couldn't understand how or why anyone would want to kill them in such violent ways. Unfortunately, the right to kill was something that too many influential people fought violently to promote and protect, and now infanticide was legal in California. The orphanage was full of unwanted children, and the nuns who ran it were constantly harassed by liberal extremists, some of whom openly claimed to worship the devil. Before Sister Lucy could extract her rosary and pray for God to bring a swift end to this dark age of moral relativism and moral insanity, a sudden and overwhelming chill enveloped her, though the night wasn't cold. Her knees shook and her hands trembled. All God's children were blessed with certain gifts. Sister Lucy discovered early in her life as a nun that she had been blessed with a preternatural awareness of the presence of evil. She had used this gift in the past to anticipate attacks by liberal extremists. But tonight, she could sense that there was no immediate danger to herself or anyone else in the orphanage. Slowly, she rose from her chair and walked to the nearest window. In the distance, she could see the Hollywood sign illuminated against the night sky. Everything seemed peaceful enough, but there was something in the wind. What has come to Los Angeles? No, this feels different. Los Angeles was filled with various kinds of evil. What Sister Lucy felt now was not an invading outside force, but something that had been slowly festering and growing inside the city for a long period of time, and had finally been unleashed. In her mind's eye, Sister Lucy thought she saw the angel of death circling over the city like a bird of prey, ready to devour a fresh carcass. She drew away from the window and began to pray the rosary. As she prayed, she felt like Abraham, begging in vain for the salvation of Sodom and Gomorrah. In a dark room in another part of Los Angeles, a man stood staring at the circle of marble figures on the table in front of him. The figures represented all the title characters in Shakespeare's tragedies. The artist had done an excellent job crafting them to his specifications. It was not enough for the figures to simply stare out into space. The artist had captured their individual character traits in the stone: the youthful and dangerous passion of Romeo and Juliet, the unrestrained and bloody ambition of Macbeth, the arrogance of Caesar, and the neurotic, melancholy cynicism of Hamlet. On a pedestal above them all, like a cruel, merciless, and uncaring god, sat the immortal bard on a throne. His face was expressionless, yet stern and unyielding. It did not matter to him what motivated his characters. They had to die for the sake of his art. Shakespeare had written over 30 plays during his life, but his tragedies were easily the most famous of all his works. Whenever anyone mentioned the name of Shakespeare, hardly anyone thought of King John or Pericles, Prince of Tyre. Just as the early Christians had to be martyred to spread the word of God to the four corners of the globe, Shakespeare had to kill his most famous characters to carve out his own place in history.
As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport.
It was time to begin. The man donned a long black cape. It felt like a pair of wings. Robert Greene, one of Shakespeare's most prominent critics, had once called him an upstart crow, but Shakespeare would have the last laugh. He would forever be remembered as the greatest playwright who ever lived, while Greene would be lost to obscurity. In modern times, a quick internet search of Greene's name always resulted in the American author of the same name taking prominence.
Even ugly carrion birds can fly.
The most important piece of his costume was the intimidating theatrical mask. Half of the mask was black and the other half crimson. One half of the face represented comedy, the other tragedy. All his life, he had been told that there were two kinds of stories, those with happy endings and those with tragic endings. Having spent most of his life in Los Angeles, he knew that not everyone got a happy ending. In order for some people to make names for themselves in the entertainment industry, others needed to be left in the dust. Unfortunately, no matter what he did, some force in the universe had decreed that his life would be a tragedy.
'Tis policy and stratagem must do that you effect, and so must you resolve that what you cannot as you would achieve, you must perforce accomplish as you may.
He put on the mask. The effect was instantaneous. As he looked at himself in the mirror, all his fears and weaknesses began to evaporate. He felt as though raw power were coursing through his entire body. For the first time in over a decade, he felt alive. He had always been fascinated by masks, ever since he was a boy trick-or-treating on Halloween night. Someone had once told him that in Hollywood, you could be whoever you wanted to be, but that simply wasn't true. Hollywood, like any other city on the planet, had its masters. You could only be who the masters allowed you to be. He knew from experience that one could spend an entire lifetime trying to receive a single scrap from the masters of Hollywood and achieve nothing.
Oh, how wretched is that poor man that hangs on princes' favors. There is betwixt that smile we would aspire to, that sweet aspect of princes, and their ruin, more pangs and fears than wars or women have. And when he falls like Lucifer, never to hope again.
But tonight, he would take control of his story.
This is the night that either makes me or fordoes me quite.
He got into one of the electric cars he had acquired on the black market. The license plates and registrations were forgeries. He could travel in complete anonymity as long as he didn't draw attention to himself. The cars and the forged documentation had not been cheap, but it was amazing what some people were willing to spend for Hollywood memorabilia and various other items stolen from the homes of celebrities. For a man in his situation, money did not matter. As he drove along the pre-planned route that would bring him to his destination as discreetly as possible, he felt like a bird gliding through the night. No one knew his intentions, but he could still feel a slight sense of trepidation.
Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires.
He arrived at his destination. This was the point of no return. If his nerve failed now, or if he failed in his task, the world would never know his name. He would simply vanish without a trace, leaving nothing behind. He thought of all the depraved individuals who had ever lived and worked in this city. So many of them had lived for no reason other than to satisfy their own egos and carnal desires. Yet the world continued to idolize them even after they had been reduced to dust and ashes. These thoughts fueled his hellish hatred and burned away the last traces of his fear.
Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light.